Okay, there we go. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be starting shortly. Let me just put up the links on Facebook. It's not going to be a super long episode tonight, I don't think. Just by the fact it's really hot here and we don't have air conditioning. But I did want to go live, so it's been too long. So just bear with me. There we go. Just bear with me. Almost ready. Okay. One more thing. Just because my connection's going to be terrible otherwise. It's not been so great. Be right back. Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about the delays. I just had to get things sorted out since it's been a little while since I've done this. Welcome to Paranormal Encyclopedia. As always, I'm your host, Kevin Mears, demonologist at Paranormal Encyclopedia. And it's not going to be a real long episode, I don't think. Granted, I say that all the time. I wind up pumping out hour-long episodes anyway, so who knows? But I wanted to get on there. There's a couple things I want to talk about. Before I get into tonight's topic, there's something really important I want to bring up for anyone who isn't aware of it. So, anyone who's listened to the show for a while should know my good friend Virgo Triad. She's an awesome lady who's a big part of fighting the sovereign citizen and Moorish American movements here on YouTube, getting accurate information out to people to make them realize, no, you do in fact need a driver's license. You do in fact need insurance. You can't just opt out of U.S. law. I was very devastated to hear that she had a horrible house fire, severe enough to put her and her spouse in the intensive care unit. Her house was destroyed. All of her belongings have been destroyed. A number of her dogs had gone missing. There's good news. Since the last updates on this, which is that she's out of the hospital, and although she's still in a care home, several of her dogs are with a sitter and being cared for. Although, according to the GoFundMe to help her out, one of our little man is still missing. Folks, if you could, Virgo's a really classy, really wonderful lady. If you can help her out, please try to do it. She's done a lot of good for people. Again, Lisa, for truth, I'm in a pretty good place right now. There's no time in which I couldn't use extra money. But right now, more than myself, I want to try and encourage people to help out Virgo if at all possible. Lisa, you should find tonight's episode really interesting, particularly if I have everything worked out right and I can share the photographs I'm going to share. This is going to be kind of exciting. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to probably freak the heck out of some people, though. But again, folks, try to help Virgo if you can, with whatever you can. I'm not asking for money from me. I'm good. I will say if anybody happens to know someone who's renting a fairly affordable apartment in the central New Jersey area, maybe get in touch with me, because I am looking for a new place, 1 or 2 bedroom. But that's not a huge thing, obviously, and I don't need money for that. I just need to find an actual apartment, which is a totally different issue. If you have the money to spare, give it to Virgo, don't give it to me. That said, let's talk about tonight's episode. So you may have wondered where I've been the last 2 weeks, because I have been meaning to do an episode. I even said I was going to do an episode, and then said I was going to do an episode again. I got contacted by a woman who lives in the state of Delaware. I'm not going to say where, out of respect for privacy. Just like if what I'm planning to do works properly, I'm going to show you some pictures from this case. And you'll notice in one of them, which is a wedding photo, there's a giant black blob over the bride and groom's face that says privacy. This is not the ghost of respecting people's privacy. Obviously, this is editing done to protect people's identities and things of that nature, because I'm not here to dox anybody, let alone a person involved in an active case I'm currently working. Anyway, I get a call from this woman. She lives in Delaware. She describes how she is being afflicted by spiritual beings. Asks if I can come down. So I spent some time talking with her. Turns out she has had multiple groups come down in the past. People all agree there's something in her house. But there's some debate about whether it's a demonic force or fairies, actually. But people they'll come down, they'll investigate. She never hears from them again. She talked to a priest. The priest was supposed to do a house blessing. The priest was convinced there was something in the home. Now the priest is finding various reasons why they can't come out. This is all very common, I'm sorry to say. I'm not going to name any of the groups, partly because I haven't asked their names, partly because even if I did know them, we'll get into that, Lisa. That's a good question. But Lisa, for truth, wanted to ask why fairies. But it's not uncommon for groups, and particularly Catholic priests, to vanish in a situation like this. A lot of paranormal groups just aren't equipped to handle violent hauntings. And particularly with Catholic priests, there's a whole bureaucratic red tape thing they have to go through to get an exorcism approved. Which relates somewhat, if memory serves, to the other case we're going to talk about tonight, which is the Glatzel case, which is the basis of the movie, the loose basis of the movie, The Conjuring 3: The Devil Made Me Do It, that just came out. Now, as to why it's been theorized it was fairies, let me show you. Well, let me get into it by showing you one of the first pictures this woman sent me. Let me see. Okay, I need to do a screen share. I know it can be done. I've had a friend of mine do it using the software when we did the Wrath of Khan. So I have high hopes this will work now, but I've never done it on my computer, so we'll see what happens. So let's see. Allow them to see my screen. Okay, let's see. Hopefully everybody can see that. There we go. So it does see. It seems like it's working. Obviously, I can't refer back and forth right now. So I'm going to show this picture, which wasn't taken inside of the home itself. It was taken in the garage that's just outside. Now, when I first saw this picture, I assumed that what I'm about to point out to people was a sculpture of some kind. I'm curious if people could see it. I wonder if there's a way to stop the. I'll just share the. So, okay, I'm going to leave this here for a moment, and then I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to see if anyone can see what I'm talking about. Okay, stopping now. And yes, Serenity, I did make a point of setting out a specific folder to share what I'm sharing. So did anyone see what I was talking about? The face specifically that's in that picture. And Lisa, a diplo's an interesting hypothesis. I don't think so. Yeah, I came back because I can't look at this screen, or I don't think I can look at this screen. Wait a sec. Let me see something. Participants, share screen. See if this works. Okay, I'm trying something. And hi, Teresa Hall. Yeah, it's not. See, the problem is I can't have it. For some reason, it won't share the specific picture. So if I go, I have to leave the picture up for a while and switch back and forth. Or I can't see the chat and see how people are responding. So let me show you a bigger version of what I'm talking about. Because I guarantee if you didn't see it the first time, you're going to see it. So this is a blow up the client sent me of the face in discussion. Obviously, it's not going to be as good a quality photo because of that. But it'd be helpful if I could just share that thing. Allow. Do you guys see it now? Let me increase the size and make it more obvious. So you can see my screen at the moment. You can see eyes, a nose, a chin and a mouth, animal-like ears, perhaps. Let me go back to the first one. And I'll increase the size. And again, it's right here. And I know what you're thinking. And the reason I know what you're thinking is it's what I thought when I saw this. I mean, the first time she sent me this photo, I dismissed it out of hand because I'm looking at it. It's like, okay, I see this face, but it's clearly some sort of wood carving. I'm here to tell you there's no wooden thing in that part of that garage that could possibly be. Honey, that's actually a really good idea. Could you bring up the chat on the phone and bring that out to me? Because, folks, this picture is good, the one I just showed you. But there's ways to explain it. The one I'm about to show you is what's going to blow your minds. I've been doing this. I'm 44. I started heavily investigating demonic cases and really investigating the paranormal at 18. So, what is that? 26 years in this business. God, good heavens, I'm old. 26, years doing what I do. I've seen a lot of photos of spirits in my life. And most of them are exactly what most of you have probably seen over the years. They're not impressive. I can count on one hand the number of times I've seen something like this. Thank you, dear. So I'm going to bring up... I now have the chat in front of me on my phone so that I can refer to this while I show you what I'm about to show you. And yes, Teresa, the chubby cheeks and the animal ears are what made us suspect that this might be a fairy. Although I have since concluded I don't think it is. Although the new investigator I brought in with me does. So I may be wrong. But let's do this. Share screen. Share entire screen. Allow. Here we go. Now, again, obviously, there's no ghost of privacy. This is just editing. Can anybody see what's wrong with this picture? It's obviously a wedding. It's a happy occasion. It's specifically the client's son and now daughter-in-law. Anyone see what's wrong? And Serenity, you don't count since you've seen this picture multiple times and you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yes, that is correct, Lisa. What's wrong with this picture is right here. There is nobody standing. I mean, this is a wedding photo, as you might expect. There is no one standing behind them in this picture. Let me show, and even if you think there is, let me show you something else, which is the same picture, just blown up. Does that look like a human face to anyone? You see what I mean about this being an absolutely insane photograph? I am not an expert on photography. I cannot absolutely confirm or deny whether or not this is a deliberate hoax. My personal opinion, based on what I know of the client, is that it is not. If that's the only thing that could do this that I know of. This is not, I mean, this is not dust. This is not lens flare. This is not a double image. This is not any of the many ways that natural phenomenon appears on film. It could be photoshopped or apps that will add ghosts to your photograph. The only thing I can think of, other than this being legitimate, and I can't confirm personally that it's legitimate. I did not take this photograph. So I am not resting my reputation on this being true. If anyone in the audience has a good background in photography or knows someone who does, please reach out to me. I would like to try to get this authenticated. This case is pretty bad. In the long term, I'm going to probably need to get a priest involved. And having someone who is familiar with photography, who's familiar with Photoshop, which I am admittedly not, who can verify or dismiss this photograph would be very helpful. If someone listening right now is a photographer, has experience with this kind of thing, or you know someone, please reach out to me. My email is in the description. Please note as well, if your answer is it can't be real, that this doesn't exist, don't waste your time. That's not a valid logical argument. If you have a sound basis for saying that it's a hoax, beyond that you just assume it must be because you don't believe in this, I want to hear what you have to say. I don't think based on my experiences in the home and having spoken with the client, I'm going to talk about my experiences. I do not believe this is a hoax. But as a rational person, I cannot say for certain it's not a hoax. And Teresa Hall commented South American, and my fiance Serenity said that, yeah, she thought it was that kind of artistic image as well. I would be more precise and say that it's reminiscent of something Mayan or Aztec. But I don't think either of you is off base here. I will tell you guys this much. When I first started talking to Jay, which is all I'm going to use to refer to this woman, I kind of was a little suspicious. I asked her, I'll probably check with her on that again. But I asked her the standard questions about medical conditions, psychiatric conditions, histories, medications, because we asked that of everybody for very logical reasons. She got kind of defensive. Now, the reason she's defensive is understandable by virtue of she's been going through this stuff for months, if not years. She's convinced she's not crazy. But so it gets offensive. You get offended when you're going through this thing that makes you think you're crazy. Yeah, I'm not surprised, Serenity. And somebody else implies it. It's a little hard. I will say she's very lucid, very down to earth. But again, I'm not a qualified psychiatrist. I can't make that sort of claim either. I'm going to... I'll leave this up for the moment. So let me talk about this house. Like I already said, the house is in Delaware. I brought a new investigator down. I had brought them her out on a cemetery investigation to make sure she could handle things. But that's it. We pull up to this house. Middle-aged, older-end lady, very nice woman, and her husband lived, and their dog lived there. And we're talking to her, and here's again where this gets a little question mark. Yeah. No, very down to earth. She's been having these experiences. What was the question mark? Oh, the question mark about whether it's fairy or demonic or what. Small figures. Funny little men, she describes them as. Sitting on her eyeglasses, messing with her hair, walking to the wall. The other thing that she comments on that's very common is that, actually I should take this down. I'll bring it up again before the end, but I'm going to take this down for the moment. I don't, and I'll get into why as well. Don't like wonder. Was actually okay. This is somewhat on. Oh, there we go. Software. Or not, excuse me. Brownies, for those of you who may not know, are a type of. Weird. Yeah. Okay. Somebody in the chat, let me know if you can hear me. Yeah, this says a lot. Particularly because when I look at my computer screen, I don't see myself in the video. I see that photo. When I look at my phone, I see myself. I'm going to try resetting or refreshing the browser. This is really strange. So yeah, it may be demonic, it may be Mesoamerican. It's hard to be sure. This is very much one of those weird, it could be a lot of things situations. It's also one of those situations of, there's the old saying, when all you have is a hammer, everything starts to look like a nail. This is kind of when all you have is a hammer, sometimes it doesn't matter. Everything might as well be a nail. Exorcism rituals work pretty well on any kind of malevolent spirit. What's interesting about this case is the woman's been married before. One of her ex-husbands got into an affair with a witch, which might be another explanation of what's going on. The family may very well be cursed. But while we were inside the house, I mean, we did the usual things. We walked the house. We did EVP. We didn't get any real results doing EVP. We ran a spirit box, which those who've listened to the show often enough will know. Those who don't, it's funny enough, both are relatively new and a fairly old piece of equipment for ghost hunting, but it's inspired by designs created by Thomas Edison in his attempt to build what he called a phone to the dead. It will cycle very rapidly through radio frequencies, AM, or the one I have will do AM or FM. They can set it, the cycle rate at between 100 and 450 millisecond MPS. And I had it on 450, and we're sitting there. And we have it running for a while, and we're hearing 333. Called me a jerk a couple of times. We didn't have a recorder running at the same time, so unfortunately I don't have recordings of this. Lisa, that's a good idea. I've talked about it a couple of times, but Lisa was suggesting that it would be neat if I did an episode about the differences between Catholic and Protestant exorcism. Although it's more between exorcism and what's called deliverance ministry, which isn't the same thing. There are also Catholics are not particularly Roman Catholics aren't the only people who do exorcisms. It's Roman Catholics, Episcopalians, Anglicans, and the various Orthodox churches that have the rite of exorcism. Most Protestant denominations rely on what's called deliverance ministry, which is a whole other kettle of fish. But what was another thing that was interesting with this case, and I can't say that I saw it, but it's not that inconsistent, so it's not that I don't believe her, is that apparently she'll see them drain light and energy from the lights in the house. And I can also say one of the places we got some of the most activity, although I kind of wish I hadn't found out about this until after, because we decided there's a second floor, first floor basement, and they had people living in the basement, and apparently a number of people, and I don't want to give the exact number out because again I don't want to give out specific information, but a number of people overdosed in the same night from heroin, died, and then they were able to bring them back with Narcan, which is a whole other reason the house may have spiritual problems. But we have all this happen. I'm sitting in the living room and I'm watching these black shadows fly this way and that. I mean, the house is clearly active. And then finally, it's time to go. It's been an hour and a half. It's an hour and a half drive there, hour and a half drive back. We've been there about 2 hours. So I did a house blessing over the home, doused everything in holy water, and we made the long drive back. At this point, I'm still in communication with the lady. Things have gotten better. It used to be at the point where she was using holy water herself every night. It's not at that point anymore, but it's still going on. Her dog is being tormented and is very sick. So the plan is to go back next week. I need to confirm plans, but at this point, my plan is to go back next Tuesday night. So there won't be an episode next week if that happens for obvious reasons. And I would ask that any of you who are religious in any way, please say a prayer for Jay from Delaware. She needs all the help she can get with this situation. And I'll continue to report on what I find. Maybe I'll get some more good photos. And again, if anyone knows someone, if anyone listening now or down the line is familiar with camera work and familiar with various editing techniques, wants to, please reach out to me. I will require you to sign some sort of waiver, most likely, just for privacy protections. But I will allow you to see the original unedited photograph and analyze it, because that could be very useful to getting clergy involved if I have to take that step. The thing to be aware of, again, is if you're going to tell me that it must be fake because this doesn't exist, please don't waste your time or mine. I'm looking for someone who actually can go, okay, if you look at this and that, and point to specific things in the photograph and has some expertise in the area, who can debunk it, not just somebody who assumes it isn't real. Because what's the point of asking you if you just don't believe? Bathing in rose, maybe. The thing that it's worth keeping in mind with various protection rituals and is they really are very. What works in terms of protection is very personal. What works for me as a Christian won't work as well for a pagan or a Jew, and vice versa. This is not a my way is better than your way in any objective sense. It's a very subject, what works and what doesn't work is really based on your own personal faith and belief. If you do it, she doesn't really have any associations with the Rosewater, so it probably wouldn't do her a lot of good. Instead, I've been suggesting specific prayers, getting particularly getting St. Francis of Assisi medal that can go on the dog's collar, because that's her religious faith. Yeah, it can work better together, but the investigator I'm bringing with me is a pagan. She's not a Christian. Again, it's a question of the personal faith of the person using the symbol, not the symbol itself. Symbols, it's just like any other symbol. A piece of cloth with 13 stripes and stars on a blue field. If you showed it to somebody living on North Sentinel Island, that island that's been touched by anybody else for hundreds, if not thousands of years, it'd be meaningless. It only has meaning because we give it meaning. And it's that faith, that meaning that we give symbols that make them relevant. It's not, a cross is really just two pieces of wood stuck together. And it has importance because we give it importance. Or because a priest or other member of clergy blesses it and imbues it with some of his own belief. This is, again, not a disrespect of anyone else's beliefs. I work within my own framework. Particularly in this case, I am sticking with the client's framework. Because what's going to work for her is going to be based on what she believes, not what I believe. That's the main things I wanted to report on and to show those photos off. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I want to talk a little. I'm going to probably go before much longer because I don't have air conditioning. It's kind of hot out here. But I did want to talk a little bit about the movie that just came out. So for those of you, most of you are probably aware at this point that we have a new successful cinematic universe, as opposed to the DCU or the Dark Universe, which have been abysmal failures at a shared universe of movies. But there is the one shared universe of movies that is turning out to be cash cow other than Marvel, which is the Conjuring universe. It started with the original Conjuring, now you have Conjuring 2, Conjuring 3. 3 just came out, which is what we're going to talk about. Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It. You also have the 3 Annabelle spin-offs, the less said about the better. The Curse of La Lorna, which I'm not quite sure why it's part of the Conjuring universe. It's not connected to Ed Lorraine Warren. The Nun, and you have a new one called The Crooked Man that they're working on. But it's a series of movies primarily based on, in some way, on the cases of famous demonologist Ed Lorraine Warren. The most recent movie, which is also the most recent case in terms of timeline, is this The Devil Made Me Do It, based on the case also known variously as the Demon Murders case, based on an 80s era TV movie about it, or The Devil in Connecticut, which is the name of the book that was published about it, or the Glatzel case. It's a young boy who became possessed by a demon, had a very violent possession, very violent series of exorcisms. And during one of the exorcisms, this went on for an extended period of time, the boyfriend of his sister, this guy Arnie Johnson, or Cheyenne Johnson, apparently, actually told the demon to leave the little kid alone and come into him. Over the next few months, Johnson showed a number of behavior changes, acted very strangely, and then which ultimately culminated in him stabbing a man to death. The man was his boss, owner of a dog kennel. This event and what happened is what this case is most famous for, and what to my surprise the movie focused on. I expected the movie would devote at least some of its time to the Glatzel case. Instead, they decided to, as far as I could tell, invent a whole bunch of details about this murder. With it all, but either way, where this all becomes bizarre is that they and Lorraine Warren and the defense attorney proceed to attempt not guilty by reason of demonic possession defense. It's the third time, as far as I can tell, it's the third time, at least in the 20th century, this sort of defense was attempted. The other two times were both in England. One of which you can find the name of the guy relatively easy. The other one, I honestly don't know. I couldn't find his name doing research. Here we go. So, all right, see also, that's where to find it. Michael Taylor, which was a case that happened in England where they also attempted the demonic possession events. Needless to say, in 1981, when this happened, it was big news. And somebody in the 20th defense century literally saying Satan made me, or at least a demon made me do it. The judge would have absolutely none of it. And declared such a defense unscientific, wouldn't allow it to be used in court. And he was ultimately found guilty of manslaughter. Let's see. Yeah, the defense was called irrelative and unscientific. They then tried to claim it was self-defense. The jury was not allowed to consider demon possession as a viable explanation for related testimony. He was found guilty on November 24th, 1981 of first-degree manslaughter. He was sentenced to 10 to 20 years in prison, although he ultimately would go on to serve only 5. He has since been released from prison. Teresa, I certainly wouldn't mind you doing a protection spell. Do me a favor, my email's in the description. Shoot me an email so we can discuss this. I certainly don't oppose the idea of involving a pagan as well as a priest. But I'd like to discuss that with you in more detail in private. But certainly, yeah, I don't think the spell is out of line. So with the movie, there's two ways of looking at the movie. As a horror movie, it's actually pretty good. It's a fun movie. As an adaptation of anything that's ever happened in the real world, no. Which is extremely irritating to me because there's definitely the pieces of research that are in there. I mean, they go under the house. Some spoilers ahead. If you want to see the movie, probably good to call it a night now. If you don't want spoilers, you're being warned. You can find it on HBO Max. It's free for the entire month. That's how Serenity and I watched it. But to analyze why this movie is bad or wrong, I'm going to have to get into spoilers. And you have been warned. In this case, and it may be true, of the actual case, I think it might have been essentially the family was cursed. Fetish was left underneath the house, the place to curse in the boy. When Arnie challenges or Cheyenne challenges spirit in the movie, it passed the curse to him and then went back to the kid. This leads into this very elaborate subplot about a retired priest who's an expert in occults and the occult, who apparently was supposed to have been involved in the Cult of the Ram, which features in the first Annabelle movie. But bottom line is, you have a master Satanist, as the movie calls it, who is trying to curse the family. Now, parts of what's happening here are accurate. A lot of curses would involve putting some sort of ritual object under, usually not deep under the house, because it was actually pretty far into the crawl space that you see it in the movie, but traditionally very much under the front door, under the porch, or buried just in front of the porch. Steps would be very common. I'm not saying the way it's seen in the movie wouldn't happen, just that it's less common. The fetish itself isn't, as far as I could tell, based on any single specific thing. The design is certainly reminiscent. It certainly suggests, for example, that there are small animal bones involved, which would be very consistent with a curse. Because while human sacrifice is very rare, practicing black magicians certainly are prone to sacrifice small animals. A few lost, there are enough stray cats in the United States alone that's not very hard to do. And then their parts would be, their bones and other parts might be used in such a ritual. Where the movie gets things right again is the nature of the way that curses work. It implies that the curse demands the taking of life, that if the curse doesn't kill its target, that it's going to kill the person who cast it. I'm not so sure that's not necessarily accurate. But on the other hand, if a curse is broken by someone who knows what they're doing, it rebounds on the person who casts it, and they will wind up dead. Very impressive. Like, usually within a couple of days. And usually pretty dramatic. Not as dramatic in the movie. In the movie, you see a dead body coming to life and attacking the Warrens. That doesn't happen. At least not in the United States. I can't testify for certainty what might happen in parts of Haiti. And I'm not being humorous at all. But dead bodies don't get up and attack people in the war. Certainly not in the morgue. And the movie seems to play, it's not a spirit that looks like a dead body in the morgue. The body is somehow animated. It's not realistic. It also depicts that all you have to do is break the curses, destroy the altar, and it's like, it's a little more complicated than that. In some ways simpler than that. You don't even there's this whole idea that you need to find the object that was used to cast the curse and destroy it and things of that nature. It's very helpful if you can do so, but there are ways of coping with a curse that don't require those things. Yeah, the demon was puppeteering the body. That's definitely true. There are specific prayers and rituals that can be done. Exorcism works extremely well. Funny enough, there's sort of a way to deal with curses by casting another curse, because one of the few ways you'll sometimes see a full ritual of excommunication used today is as a counter. Is as a counter when someone's cursed, and that requires a priest. If you find an excommunication ritual and you think you're cursed, I don't recommend trying it. You're dealing with something pretty powerful there on both ends of the spectrum. A real good book, though, that you can get, particularly if you're Christian and you're concerned about having been cursed. There's a book by a man by the name of Derek Prince called "Blessings or Curses: Things You Decide." I'd recommend. It's a good book. It's a good workbook. It's very Christian centric, so non-Christians are probably not going to get a lot out of it. But it is if you are of the Christian faith, it is an excellent way to deal with the problem. It's also a very interesting meditation, for lack of a better word, on the power of language and the importance of being careful what you say. Which relates to biblical verses about the fact that, believe it or not, and a lot of Christians don't know this, the Bible contains curses. Specifically, it even contains curses that Christians and Jews can use against their enemies. Christians don't generally use them, and Jews usually use them as mainly in their rituals of exorcism, and they're used in some Christian exorcisms as well. But particularly, there's a whole set of psalms known as the imprecatory psalms that talk about God raining down judgment. They're used as a curse. They're used as a way to hurt somebody who's hurting you. I think the reality that you're running into, though, to get back on topic before I wrap up, with the third Conjuring movie, is very sadly we lost Lorraine last year on Easter. She was at least involved in the other movies. And it should, if you watch the first two Conjuring movies, that somebody who knew what they were talking about was involved shows. There's licenses that they certainly take with the cases they're based on. But there's a core element running through them that can only come from somebody who knows. This one starts with that and just starts to go like further and further afield. Which is really sad because it concerns me for the future of the franchise. The Warrens have thousands of cases, some very remarkable ones they can make movies out of. But I don't want to see it keep going like this. Particularly the case that they were talking about making into a movie before this one, which is the Bill Ramsey case. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to know what makes the Bill Ramsey case so crazy, werewolves. Or werewolf, to be precise. That could make a really remarkable movie. On the other hand, that could easily be destroyed and turned into something stupid. And that would be my fear if they try to do future movies. Granted, Anne Lorraine's son-in-law and daughter, Tony Spera and Judy, who is a character in several of the movies, in Judy's case, are still active in the work. And I am in no way disparaging, Mr. Spera's expertise in the field. I've never met the man, I haven't worked with the man, but as far as I know, he clearly knows what he's talking about and knows what he's doing. If he continues to be involved in the movies, I think they can keep it on track. I'm just concerned that they're not going to do so for the sake of making bigger and bigger blockbuster horror movies, and we all know how badly that can go. So I'm going to bring up the picture for one more time to keep everybody happy and cheerful before we sign out. And then we're going to call it a night. And I'm enlarging it even more just to give everybody pleasant dreams. Like I said, folks, it's either Photoshop or you're looking at the face of some sort of not friendly spirit. And I will say I have both signed permission and verbal permission from the client to show this photograph. So I'm not showing anything I don't have permission to. But folks, barring somebody showing that this is Photoshop, and I'm not saying that can't happen, even if the case is entirely legitimate, people who are scared and desperate sometimes fake things just to get somebody, or make up things that didn't happen just to get somebody involved because they don't think they're going to be believed either otherwise. But barring this being Photoshop, this is pretty freaky. And one, like I said, you can go a career and not see a photograph like this good. I mean, the more I look at it, just look at that eye, and look up here. It's like crown or roots. It's like this is not a human face. Hopefully, this gives some folks some stuff. Any of the more skeptical folks, at least if you're, for example, not calling you out, it'll give you something to think about. Which is, again, a lot of the point of this channel, is I don't necessarily expect I'm going to change anybody's mind. But I want to get you to think. I want you to question what you think is real and true. That's going to do it for tonight. There probably will not be a show next week because I will be in Delaware once again, helping this woman try to become free from this spiritual activity. Barring needing to, because cases can be like this. I may have to go down there again the week after, but barring that, I'll be back the week after next. Until then, I want to thank everybody for joining me. It's been a pleasure as always. It's been an interesting night. I'm rather happy I was able to share some photographs. That's going to do it for tonight, though, folks. Remember, please, if you have some money to spare, Virgo Triad is a wonderful YouTuber and a great blessing to the YouTube community, in my opinion. And, her house burned down. She and her husband, or spouse, got sent to the ICU. Her belongings have been destroyed. If you can help her, please do. The link is at the top of the description. If you're thinking about giving me money this month or anytime soon, give it to her instead. She needs it more than I do. Again, that's it for tonight, my friends. Thank you so much for joining us. I wish you all a wonderful week or 2 weeks, as the case will probably be, and say good night and God bless.